17. Not quite that bad, but it's pretty bad. In the entire state, 1,300 and something.
Yes. I'll go over 1,000.
A little over 1,300, yes. A little over 1,300 in 28 churches. And these are the churches that are called to reach out into this nun zone. And this is my church. This is called Aldersgate United Methodist Church. And it is a fabulous church. So I'm going to just tell you a little bit about Aldersgate and a little bit about Juneau. I've only been there since June, so maybe I'll come back in a year or so and give you a whole different story, but this is what I know so far. Juneau is the capital, and it has about 30,000 people there. It is the third largest city in Alaska, and you cannot drive there. It's not an island, but you can't drive there. You can either fly in or float in, but you can't drive. The mountains just kind of surround it, and the sea, the inlet, is right in front of it. So it's just this small stretch of land that the city lives in. So all of Alaskans have to deal with this idea of isolation. But Juneau is particularly struck by isolation because they can't get in or out. Now, when I lived in Atlanta or Oregon, or when I lived anywhere in the Continental, when my kid or my husband were driving me crazy, I just hopped in my car and went for a road trip, cleared my mind and went for a ride. I can't do that, so if they're starting to drive me crazy, I get in the car and I go 20 miles this way and then 20 miles this way, and I go back and forth until I've calmed down and I can go home. But it's pretty serious because being a small city, the medical community is good, it's okay, but if you have a serious issue, you have to be medevaced out. If you need to see a specialist, you have to pay $400 for your plane ticket just to get to Seattle, and that's if you're not bringing any family members. So it's very, very difficult to continue to live there. I guess this might be a good place to tell you this story, is the person, very sad, the minister who was there before me, her husband died of a stroke that probably he wouldn't have died from if he was in the lower 48, but he couldn't get the medical attention that he needed, and so he passed away. And so these are just some examples of what it's like to live in Juneau. They want to be normal, and live like, other American cities, but they're not. It's different. And so in this very isolated community, about 25 years ago, this group of people decided that they wanted to have a faith community. And so they gathered in their living room. And after a little while, the Pennsylvania conference heard about them, and they thought, what, this budding church is really interesting. Let's support them. And so what happened is in 1991, they came and they built this sanctuary for Aldersgate. And so finally, they have a building to go to. It started in someone's living room, and then they did a school library for a while, but then Western Pennsylvania Conference came through. And on Christmas Eve of 1991, the building was done, but it had not yet passed inspection. And it was Christmas Eve. So the Alaskan mentality is, don't you tell me what I can or cannot do. So they snuck into their church, and they had their very first worship service on Christmas Eve in 1991, even though it was illegal. So this is the church, and it was lovely, but they had built, it's beautiful. They built it, when they built it, those windows looked right out, and you could see the glacier, but the trees had grown up and blocked their view. It's about the size of a third of this space. Maybe the whole sanctuary is about the size of a third of this space. And so what they did is they used that space for the children's Sunday school, which was fine, but they needed more help. And so Pt2 United Methodist Church came and they built Aldersgate, a Sunday school wing. What Pt2 didn't know is they basically took care of a good part, probably half the budget of the church just by building the Sunday school wing, because they rent it out as a child care facility. And so it's a constant source of income. You can go to the next one. That's a pretty common thing that would happen in the summertime. You could see that. And so when I say where are we now, I want to tell you that there's something interesting about the church is that everyone, I'm losing my train of thought. You guys help me out. What was I going to say? Isolation. So people go there like myself, and I go there, and I don't have any friends or family up there. I mean, I'm there with a bunch of strangers. Well, I'm not alone. Juneau is a very transient place, so no one has family there. So I asked one of the congregants, I said, what's Thanksgiving like? And, you know, you can't come together with your family. She says, well, we just make up. You know, we come together with our friends, and that's our community, which is what makes church so important. And when you have 61% in Juneau checking that they have no religious affiliation, and Thanksgiving comes up and they don't have a community of support, maybe they have friends, a worker here or whatever, but they don't have a community of support, how do you get through the holidays like that? And so I think that it's very important that Aldersgate is a presence there. And so I should tell you that you know what, I'm going to skip through all this. Go to them. You know what I really want to tell you? I want to, first of all, one more slide. When I was in Oregon, I served 2 churches in Oregon. My last appointment, the average age of my congregant was 65 years old. And we all know that mainline churches are dying because as our older elders are passing on, the pews are not necessarily being filled up with folks like you guys, which is a problem. So they say the church is dying, oh no. But I have to tell you, I've never seen anything like this. Consistently, a third of my congregation are children. So first of all, when I was in Oregon, I hadn't done a children's time in 3 years. Because, you know, what 65-year-old is going to come up and sit on the floor with me? But I would do a children's time there, and a third of my congregation gets up and comes and sits on the floor with me. It's a very, very bizarre and invigorating experience. And so when I look at the nun zone and I think of, you know, how can Alaska tackle this really sad state of not having any faith, any tradition, any story to rely on when times are hard, or anything to name when times are wonderful. And I look to these kids and I think, they're the ones who are going to close the nun zone. They're the ones who are going to close the gap. You know, it's not going to happen by me going out evangelizing and, you know, converting adults. It's just not going to happen that way because I'm not a good evangelizer. That's for one reason. But it's not the reality of the world in Juneau. But when you see so many kids active in church and you see an opportunity to nurture the faith of a child, knowing that those seeds are going to make a difference down the road, that's where my hope is as far as shrinking the nun zone. So the one other thing that I want to tell you about Aldersgate is they're broke. They are always broke. Here's something that kind of really scared me a lot. They have no savings account. They have nothing in reserves. They just go by faith. Let's do the next slide. And for some reason, it works out. They always pay their apportionments 100% first. And then whatever bill can be paid, they pay that along the way. But they always pay it first because they know that they have been recipients of apportionment funds and they want to give back. So that goes first. And then they have this bulletin board with the bills for the church. And so you walk into worship and you say, oh, there's the electric bill. Oh yeah, I can take care of that. It is quite scary when I see the bill for my health insurance is up on that board. But nevertheless, the thing that really strikes me about this congregation is they don't live in fear of the future. You know, they could just pay their apportionments 50% and then save that little bit of money and put it in a savings account. And, you know, you live like that and then kind of build up your savings account just in case the boiler is going to go. And by the way, the boiler is 20 years old and they think it's going to go soon. And I said to them, so, do you have a plan? And they're like, no. And so it's a wonderful testament to living in the present and not being afraid of tomorrow, because God is going to take care of tomorrow. And for some reason, it's working for them. And so here I am as a missionary and supported by the General Board of Global Ministries. And the GBGM has there are 3 mission territories in the U.S. Do you know where they are? Redbird, which is Appalachia. There's one in Oklahoma, and there's Alaska. And those 3 areas are areas of mission. And so when I'm going to different churches and I'm asking for support, and financial support is fabulous, but equally fabulous is prayers. Support through prayers, support through presence. If you want to pull together a BIM team, give me a call. We can work something out. We've got lots of children that need vacation Bible study at school. So, you know, supporting Aldersgate is not just about opening up your checkbook. But more importantly, what I really want to emphasize is that by supporting Aldersgate, you're supporting the tackling of the nun zone. This is what my ministry is about. It's about shrinking the nun zone. So, and this might be a little too radical or liberal or whatever. You know, I'm a new Christian, so it's better, you know, for me, I would feel better if someone would check, you know, native spirituality than none. You know, have some traditions, some stories, something to draw on when you are in the depths and darkness. And so I ask you to partner with me in this crazy place of extremes and